welcome hustlers, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the 50-30-20 rule. Money. Well, let's see if this is. I see a lot going on in the blogosphere and on the internet, on YouTube, and a lot of places, and I really don't think 50-30-20 is a good framework for anyone to follow. And I have my case. I just wanted to present this and then have you rethink about 50-30-20 or even just budgeting as a whole. All right, let's just dive in. All right, what's 50-30-20? It's pretty simple. It's a budgeting idea. Like I said, it's a framework for you to take your income, monthly income, annual income, however you want to take that and put into different piles. Basically, one is for need, the other one is for the wants, and one for saving. Is that a good idea? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, the 50-30-20, it's a budgeting rule and it goes like this. So take the after tax income. So assuming that you make $120,000 pre-tax, you pay $20,000 in tax, and then you will end up with $100,000. That's after tax. Take the $100,000 after tax income and apply a 50% to that, which basically is a $50,000. So the rule basically says, hey, you're okay to spend $50,000 on essentials. Well, is that too little, a lot? I don't know. Let's see. And then and then it says 30% can go to wants. What are wants? Obviously, shopping, your vacation, things of that nature. And what goes in essentials? Your rent or mortgage. You need a place to live. Your food, uh, basic necessities like utilities, your healthcare, so on and so forth. So 50% for essentials, 30% for your other wants, and then you'll be left with 20% that goes to savings. That's what it says. Hey, if you do this, you'll be fine. Are you going to be fine? I don't think so. Let's see. Okay, this is a bold statement. You'll go broke with traditional thinking, and I'm going to back this up. All right, what are the problems with the 50-30-20 rule? 50 plus 30, which is 80, 80% of all the income after tax income. Basically, this framework says you can go and spend. So, in the example that we saw, of the $100,000, you will have $80,000 in this bucket, which is $50,000 for your essentials and another $30,000 for your wants. That, in my opinion, even for someone at the $100,000 level, is a lot. It's definitely a lot. Now, what if you make $1 million after tax income? It says you can just spend $800,000. That's bonkers. That's stupidity to think that way, because Warren Buffett has probably, I think his house is worth $2 million or $1.5 million or something. He just bought it for like God knows $600,000 like 40 years back. So he's still living there. He has paid off his mortgage. Most of you guys are. Um, so he is basically paying utilities, some maintenance, and eating. So he is probably spending $40,000-$50,000, not more than that. And he lives in Omaha, and he drives 5 minutes to work. So he's not even spending too much on gas. So and his healthcare expenses not way too different from someone else who's 80 years old. So 80% of the total expense to your essentials and your like needs and wants. I don't think that's a good framework. And then it only puts 20% in savings. So this gives you a false promise, false hope that you will be okay with just saving 20%. You will not be okay unless you're making like millions and millions of dollars. Like if you're making $50,000, just kind of the average American salary or average American income, 20% of the $50,000 is $10,000, right? You need to save 10 years to just have $100,000 in your bank account, which is a long time. All right, let's see. Now, this is a concept with the 50-30-20. You will not No. So this is again kind of a standard in the industry. More the better. But what it says is you need to have 6 to 12 months of your monthly living expense. So, which means if you're spending $1,000 a month for all your essentials, you need to have a minimum of 6,000, um ideally $12,000 saved in your bank. So just in case if you lose your job, if anything happens, you can still use that money and go through your life. Nothing affects you. You will find another job, something like that, and you can just move on with your life. So you have enough uh, fuel, so to speak. Now, more the better, but anything more than 12 months, and I agree with this safety net 6 to 12 months, because anything more than 12 months, if you put it in your bank, you're not earning any kind of interest, and then you're losing on the buying power, which is I think the next slide is that. Okay, let's take this example, right? Average American salary, which is $50,000. In this case, 50, in the old model, if you take 50% of that 50,000, that's 25,000. Someone going through this, using this framework would say, oh, you know what? I have $25,000 to spend, and probably have another $15,000 to spend on one. So that's like close to $40,000 that I can spend off the $50,000 I make on things that I need. So you will take vacation, you will buy expensive cars, you will rent a $2,500 apartment when in fact you just need a two-bedroom $1,500 apartment, right? You don't need the single family home. You just need a townhome or an apartment. So you need to really think through what's your real need, not the you cannot take this 25,000 and say, you know what, I'm going to buy the second or rent a second timeshare in Florida. That's your want, and you definitely don't need this. All right, so the old method, the problem is, um, it's one talking about saving. Some places I see people say save and invest, but for most part, you need it's not giving a clear framework for you to save, and anything more than the 12 months invest. It's not giving the guidance. So it's wishy-washy. The most important thing is anything beyond the 12 months, you're not your buying power is basically getting reduced, because inflation is at 3%. Your bank is going to pay 0.5%, so 2.5% loss every year. So you don't need to have a lot. I mean, you need to save, but eventually that saving is it should go into a different pile, which is buying assets into investments. But the biggest problem with this method is 80% of the income, after tax income, which is the 50% and the 30%, is all spending, right? So the focus here is spending, and then, hey, you just take this 20% and save, you'll be okay. You will not be okay. Now, the what you have to do though is, I have this newer way of thinking. This is how I think. This is how a lot of other rich people and a lot of investors think that this way, which is you start thinking about investments first, right? And then you say, hey, for me to have a goal X years, Y dollars, you do the discounting and you say, hey, you know what? I need so much money saved every month, and then you start there. And then let's say if your salary is $100,000 after tax, you say, hey, I need to put like $3,000 in investment for my goals. So you start there, and then you say, hey, 3,000 I cannot even touch. You put that aside, and then now you have 7,000. Let's say if you, for easy math, like if you have $10,000 at the end of the month in your bank account, you have to take the 3,000, invest or move into investments. So that's 3,000 gone. So you have 7,000, and you need to see whatever your expenses are, and then you take some amount, let's say $2,000, and you put into savings, and now you're left with 5,000, and you can only live on 5,000. And there's a better way. What I personally do and I advise people to do is, you on a monthly basis, you go sit and pull your credit card statements, your bank accounts, whatnot, and then look at all the expenses, right? Obviously, you have only one, assuming that you have only one source of income, which is your employer paid salary. So you have on the so you need to do a personal income statement where you have salary as the income, that's the only income, and then you have a lot of these expenses, right? You need to see where you're spending all the money, right? And then try to ask critical questions as to, hey, is this required for me to live? A mortgage. Oh yeah, I have to pay. I have to live somewhere. Mortgage, that's a need. Obviously you need to have it. I have this huge car payment. Do I need that? Well, do I need the second and the third car? Well, you need to start shaving off all those expenses, unnecessary expenses you need to remove, and then eventually you'll come up with the income statement, the to be income statement, like the ideal income statement, where you'll say, hey, my salary is still the same thing, right? Uh, but you're on the expense side, I'm having all these expenses, like let's say 25 items, of which 10 items are I can't live without, like utilities I have to pay. I have to pay health insurance. I have to pay my life insurance. I have to pay, rent or mortgage, whatever. You need to put that and say, hey, I'm spending, uh, you know, $7,000 a month in all these expenses. Ideally, I should be only spending 4,000 because those are the things that's required. And then obviously you'll have some, your television channels or your Netflix or whatever. You need to have some free entertainment, that's fine, but not 30%. 30% is a lot, right? Um, so you just need to have like some, maybe 5, 10%, not more than that. And then you need to take anything more than that, anything beyond that, it should all go into either savings. And once your 6 to 12 months bucket is full, you should not put any penny more than what's needed in that savings, and then you should just move everything in investments. Your idea should be to start with investments, obviously do this income statement, and come up with, hey, you know what, I can cut all these items I don't need. You got like 5 subscriptions that you don't even log into, right? You have this subscription box coming every month with the chocolate, like, really, you need it? Maybe half the time you're not even opening it. So you need to really think on all those lines and try to trim your expenses. And in any case, right? Do not go by this 50% unless you're making, minimum wage $10,000. You're only making, let's say, $25,000 a year. Yeah, maybe you'll be like spending 80% on, your living expense. I understand that you need to start increasing your value, and so you can build more, make more. So you're looking at the um, in the income on the income statement, and you're trying to increase that. That's your problem. But if you're making anything like $100,000 or more, you shouldn't even be looking at the 50%, right? You should be looking at your expenses as is, and then back calculate the percentage, not take the 50% and apply to expenses. You should just take your real expenses, right? Honest expenses. Okay, you know what? If you come up with $3,000. That's all. $1,000 for your one-bedroom apartment. You're single. That's all you need, and then another $1,000 for your food and everything else. $1,000 for your health. Health. Say $3,000 you can live off of, right? Excellent, right? And let's say if you make $10,000 a month, so what do? $3,000 for expenses, and then you got $7,000, um, which will go some of it to savings and most of it to investments, and you'll be totally fine. That's how you have to go eventually. And the reason why I'm emphasizing that you should start with investments is the goal of this triangle, right? Instead of a pie chart, I wanted to look at this way is you want to make your base wider and thicker and wider and bigger, and it has to be massive. At some point in time, there is a critical point where your investments will be so big that it will and then savings, obviously you'll have the 6 to 12 months, so you don't need that bucket will be full and you don't even have to touch it. And then eventually your investments will be able to meet all the expenses. So what happens is that's like a flywheel, right? Your investments will actually provide enough money for all your expenses, and then assuming that you have another source of income, let's say, or you're still working, your income will go into investments. Now you got like your investment is giving like it's meeting all the expenses, and all the income that's coming in is going directly into investments. You don't even have to touch your monthly salary, and then now the investments is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And investments now, the return from the investments is meeting expenses, and it's way beyond. So it's actually reinvesting itself, and the magic of compounding will kick in, and then, you know, so ideally you should be looking at this and not a pie chart, and definitely not the 50% and 30% for expenses. That's bonkers. I cannot even believe people are just talking about this. You should not even be looking at um, your budgeting from that angle. That's all I have for you guys. Hopefully I made a case and proved a point that the 50, 30, and 20 is not a good idea. And obviously you have a different way of looking at it, more like increase income, decrease expenses, save enough, invest, invest more. That's probably how you have to think. And that's all I have for you guys today. I wish you all a very prosperous 2021. Earn a lot, save a lot, and invest wisely and be prosperous. Thank you all.